patiently at their own pace without me saying pre-save, you know.
Sure.
Demand when we're releasing stuff, we're saying don't forget to do this, you know, make sure you listen, make sure you stream.
Hey, Ryan, what's going on?
Not a lot. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We chatted about a little over a year ago, right before you put out the latest Mother album.
Awesome. Good to see you again. Thanks for wanting to talk about this new project. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I just was listening to the people earlier today, and it's such a cool sound. And the art and the merch that you have is so cool, like the mantra cards and the vinyl and all that is just so awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of hear all about it. I'm Adam, and this is a podcast about you and your journey in music. Obviously, we got your story kind of the first time around, but I'd love to just touch on it real quick, and then I want to hear all about this new project.
For sure.
Sweet. So born and raised, I think you said you're Campbell River area, right? Like a small island you kind of grew up on?
Yeah, so Vancouver Island is a relatively large island off of the mainland of Vancouver City. And there's a place called Campbell River where I was born. And from there, you catch a small 10-minute ferry to a very small island called Quadra. And that's where I grew up with about a population of 3,000 people. And then I moved to Vancouver when I was 19 years old, and then kind of began my journey in the music industry.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting that, like, I was just thinking about this before. Like, there's 3,000 people on that island. Like, I remember before you told me that you take like a ferry into school and everything. Like, just have that. If you think 3,000 people, and if you think of probably the shows that Mother played, like you're playing essentially to like every person living on the entire island, like at any given night.
Yeah, that's the metric. It's like how many quadras are in this venue? Wow.
Right.
There's 4 quadras. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. I remember you talked about getting into music pretty early on, like 5 years old.
Yeah. There's a piano in the living room, and some of my earliest memories were just being drawn to, you know, this strange machine in the corner of the room, and, you know, pressing on the keys and getting that feedback and being emotionally stirred, and then just kind of following that feeling through life. And, you know, luckily that feeling has evolved to a career. Very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. With that, I never asked you this last time. Was do you come from a musical family at all? I mean, to have a piano in the house, does anyone play the piano?
Or my mom certainly. Pardon me?
Nothing. Oh, sorry, you were answering. I just said, or did anyone play it? You know, obviously it was there in the house.
Yeah, so piano lessons were certainly encouraged, and, you know, maybe mildly enforced on all of us kids. And then from there, the child was allowed to pursue it based on the level of their interest. But our parents weren't particularly musical. I think they could have been in like an alternate universe, but they just sort of chose different paths. But very creative people, very open-minded people, and definitely encourage us to follow our passion, be it music or anything else.
So they're supportive of the decision to kind of take this as a job path in your life.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, they are the original hippies who moved to Quadra Island when it was just nothing but dirt roads and thick forests. So, you know, even that decision is very much counter societal norms.
Sure.
So for their children to want to do something in the arts or creative wouldn't disturb them at all.
That's amazing. Yeah, you said your sister, well, she's in the band, but she was going to this art school as well, right? When you guys kind of formed what became Mother.
Yeah, she was going to graphic design school, and I was going to jazz school, and we both quit school and started this band and started playing open mics and caught a little buzz around the city. And within a year, I think we had signed our first record deal to Last Gang Records based out of Toronto, which was exciting for us because at that time, Metric was on that label, and that was, you know, one of our favorite bands at that time.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it was exciting beginnings, and from there we just stayed on the path and toured and released more music, and years and years and years went by until finally in 2020 we kind of caught our first big lucky break, and that was after 17 years of doing this.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I was actually just talking to another band earlier today that kind of had a similar situation with a song that ended up being released in 2012 that hit recently on TikTok, and it's like then they re-recorded and released it, but they've had like 4 albums that came out in the meantime, and it's kind of similar to you. I mean, you even had more records than that, but to have something like that just kind of appear in the midst of this pandemic. I think you said that you didn't even have TikTok at the time. You're kind of just trying to backtrace and find like patient zero on this like streaming thing that kind of happened, right?
Yeah, like we were just doing our thing, and then all of a sudden our streams are going up inexplicably, and yeah, we traced it to TikTok and went into that realm and discovered a lot of young people around the world who were bonding with our catalog. And luckily we were still alive and thriving as a band, so we were able to greet and meet this new energy with execution. I think it's typical for bands to kind of break up or fizzle out around the 10-year mark or even prior, but that we stayed the course, and we're as fit to respond to a lucky break as, say, 10 years prior, was something that I'm quite grateful for.
Yeah, it was like you already had a back catalog and so much experience in the industry prior to that happening, instead of, say, somebody that has a viral moment and that's maybe the first or second thing they've ever done. And it's like, okay, now what are you going to do? Like, you had this back catalog and music that you had already been releasing, and you had so much time in the business. Do you feel like that could have been like, if that would have hit, say, on the first or second record, would that have been a totally different mindset for you all?
Oh yeah, just completely different people. I'm so grateful that that didn't happen. I think the most important thing that has happened to us over the years is just humility, just being humbled by the industry and by how inexplicably hard it is to find a foothold. And so when you catch a break, instead of thinking you deserve it, you understand just how abstract and random those breaks are, and so you can greet it with a greater sense of gratitude and humility, I think, by virtue of all the experience.
I always thought it was interesting because you said that you had Inside already recorded, right? Or you're written before that even all kind of took place.
Definitely written, and then as we were kind of in the studio bringing it to life, that is when the TikTok phenomenon was unveiling itself. So yeah, we kind of escaped, I think, the trap of writing a record to cater to the buzz,
right?
Which
yeah,
I
instead
think,
of trying to follow that up, I mean, you already had an idea and you're already executing something, instead of going, oh, well, this is working, maybe we should lean into that.
yeah. And so for that reason, I think Inside is a really authentic album. It's truly born from that pandemic moment. And it's an accurate representation of that capsule of time and energy. So yeah, and TikTok did not interfere with that at all, because we were unwitting to TikTok when it was being born.
Sure. My last quick question on Mother, and then I want to definitely talk all about Goldmouth and what you have going on with this project, because it's amazing. But you did like a deluxe release of Inside, and there's 7 other songs on the album. And were those done after the fact, or when were those songs written, put together?
Yeah, those were new songs.
Okay.
Some kind of old ideas birthing kind of finished songs, and that was actually a time where I think we very healthily honored the old guard of Mother and the new TikTok energy by going into a bit of a time machine and purposefully making a collection of songs that honored that old sound. that felt really good to do at that time. It didn't feel like we were chasing anything or trying to, jump on the gravy train of the moment. It just felt like a really really special, authentic celebration of, this new energy that was getting stirred up by virtue of really old songs.
It would like with that though, like, did jumping back and kind of, were you just like immersing yourself more in that, or those early days, and kind of just reflecting on that to then kind of put yourself in that space to write in that kind of in that way?
Absolutely. I mean, we hadn't listened or played a lot of those songs for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden we were vicariously experiencing them through, the minds and the hearts and the souls of this whole new listenership. And to them, these songs are brand new. And to us, they belong to a different lifetime.
Right.
But through them, we got to experience them again. And we got to be reminded of how powerful your entrance into your craft is, and how naivety and how that sort of sense of wonder and awe that only a child possesses when they're greeting life for the first time is very powerful stuff. And that's kind of the same energy when you're first writing songs, when you first discover your voice, when you first greet your muse. It only kind of happens once, and a lot of good things can happen in that space. And so it was nice to be reminded of that.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, especially, and probably validated everything you guys have done over the past 10, 15 years. I mean, to go back and have your old songs still resonate with this new, kind of wave of fans. I think that's so rad.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. We feel very fortunate about this turn of events, and it's definitely given our career, our band, our relationship with Mother a new lease on life.
For sure. So with Goldmouth, the new record, the solo project, when did you start working on this? Or has this been a project or kind of a passion project that you've been working on for a while?
I think I've been thinking about it for probably this entire time, for 17 years, but not in any rush to activate it. But I began writing and recording this music back in 2018.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when you're writing and doing that, you just knew it was not going to be mother songs, or you kind of had a different headspace in what you were doing? Like, was there a different lane that you're taking with this versus when you'd write a song and know, okay, this is going to go to mother?
Yeah, no, it was very purposeful and intentional. I was writing and creating a new world for a solo project, and just allowing that process to direct the production value, the aesthetic, the name, just getting in the room, deciding that this time spent was to try and birth this new thing, and just being open to what it was going to tell me back. And I was in no rush, so I just began at that time, said this could take 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. Let's just see what the energy tells me. And yeah, it took about 2 years before the record was finished and the name was solid and the art and the visuals were kind of congealing, and a world was starting to form, an essence was starting to form. And that was in 2020 when I think the project kind of felt done. And that was before the pandemic.
Wow.
And I had intended on releasing Goldmouth in 2020. But then, the pandemic happened and it didn't feel quite right to do that. The world was just going through a traumatic event, and I didn't feel like saying, hey, look at me and my new thing. So I put it on a shelf, made a Mother record. TikTok happened. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know when this is going to happen, but sometime down the road. And, the thought was, well, when Mother slows down, we'll find a window push Goldmouth out. It's like Mother's not going to slow down. I think it's going to be ramping up for the next number of years. And so we just decided to push this out now, despite all the activity.
I was going to say, you guys have a massive tour coming up and everything else, so the band isn't slowed down whatsoever. But so was all the songs are written ready? I mean, because it's more of like a full like art project, right? You edited the music videos that are coming out. You produced the whole and did everything on the record, right? It's like it's a whole like art piece, which I think is so cool.
Yeah. So basically, like for me, the project is less about me churning out music and being successful and getting on playlists and blah blah blah, that kind of solicitous thrust. It's not about that. It's a vehicle for me to kind of honor how I see life, which is innately a very strange and beautiful, miraculous adventure. And through Goldmouth, I want to celebrate that and evoke a feeling that represents that, not through music, but through my other passions, such as poetry and photography and videography, and to create, just a world where these mediums harmonize and work together to celebrate the awe, the wonder, the miracle of life. And I really don't wish to push the project on the world or there to be a solicitous thrust behind it. I just kind of want, people to gravitate to it organically, patiently, at their own pace, without me saying pre-save,
Sure.
When we're releasing stuff, we're saying, don't forget to do this, make sure you listen, make sure you stream. It's like, I don't want to tell people to make sure to do anything. Just should you happen to find it or it find you and that feel right and you get something good out of it, then that's wonderful. But if that doesn't happen, that's fine too.
I mean, with the people, I think it's such a cool song, and like the piano and just kind of have this like haunting kind of feel to the record. And then there's like, it sounds like there's like other elements that are kind of in the beginning. It almost sounds like a movie ambient. Like what, like tell me about the song and like even the intro. Like, is that like a clip from something?
Yeah. So one of my favorite ways to make music is to collect field recordings of my environment. Okay. And I live on the downtown east side, which is the most troubled neighborhood in Vancouver. It's actually notorious in all of North America how much of an epidemic the drug and homelessness crisis is here on the downtown east side. And I live right in the thick of it, and it's quite a symphony of disturbing sounds. People are screaming, people are shouting, there's sirens, there's trains, it's kind of industrial. If you can separate the heartache of, a lot of these situational problems, it actually sounds pretty awesome. And so I collect a lot of voice memos, and I infuse these memos into the music, and that was the case with the people. So all those people that you hear, those are people from the streets here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really creative. Yeah. Cause I didn't know if you'd clip something from a film or something like that. Cause you could hear it all and then it fits. So there's like a point where I think you cough or something in the song. Like, it's just like so cool and authentic. I thought that was so rad. I'm like, oh, that's awesome that he just kind of, it feels like you're just there doing it, and you just like you sat down, push record, and went, and then just cut it when it was done.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of the idea, to make it feel, like it's breathing,
right,
in human time, not in music time.
Right, it's like not like this polished, like overproduced thing. It's just like it's a rad song, and you feel that energy when you're listening to it, just having those ambient sounds. And then, like that piece where you kind of cough or whatever during the song.
Thanks.
Yeah. And you took, like, you kind of had some, like, not co-wrote, so to speak, but like with letting go. And then I want to talk to you about Dream of You, because what a powerful, I mean, what a heavy subject to take on, and like through a friend's poem. Is that correct?
Yeah. So my ex-girlfriend has an aunt who cut my hair, and we became friends through those haircuts. And she's also an author and a great poet and just a very creative person. And she would send me poems and stuff. And she sent me this one poem called Dream of You that was about the murder of her father, who sort of abandoned her family. It was a sister ship of 5 girls and a mother, and he kind of fled to the States from Canada. And then a number of years later, they got the news that he was beat to death, and the murderer was never found. And so there was a great deal of lack of closure, and that's what this poem implied. And it was beautiful. It's just such a magnificent poem, and it didn't read like a song except for the chorus, where she just had the line, "All I do is dream of you." I was like, oh, that's a chorus. I just kind of picked up a guitar, started singing that over these chords. It felt right. And then I shared that with her, and she was quite taken by the idea of us collaborating and turning a poem into a song. And thus began the journey of shaping, reshaping, rewriting poetic stanzas into verse, because this poem didn't rhyme, and songs need to rhyme more than this poem. And that was such a beautiful process, is kind of like somehow honoring her immaculate, perfect creation, while also mangling it and redefining it in the structure of a song.
So would you send back like versions that you had written or you had recorded, and
Yeah,
she would then go, oh, like we should change, like would she help you change the words and how it all kind of ended up coming out?
totally. Yeah, it was very collaborative. I don't like this word, or what about this, or even just like, should it be but, should it be if, should it be and, should it be, like, even those small little in between words, like we really got in there into the nuance of the language. And it was the most pure collaboration. It was collaboration at its best, because what I like about collaboration is when 2 people come together, and then the 2 people forget themselves, and a third energy comes in to play. And you're not trying to get what you want and balance that against what someone else wants. You're both just following a frequency that came from somewhere else. And it's synergistic. It feels kind of magical when it's like that. And this was very much like that. And it happened over 4 or 5 days. And it was like a spell, just kind of like obsessed and shut off from the world, and really invested in completing this song. And finally got all the words, tickety boo. And it's like, okay, I'm just going to record a voice memo and send it to her. Like, here's the finished thing. And then I'll go and re-record it. And I remember just wanting to get the voice memo to have the right feeling, play it. It's like, I'm not going to keep this. Why am I so fussy about this right now? I don't know. Let's just keep going. So I did about 14 takes, just the phone on my table, just crouched into the phone. And then on the last take, it was totally different than all the other takes. It just was easy. It just was like I wasn't even playing the song. Whereas all the other takes were like pulling teeth. But this one, for whatever reason, was like just poetry in motion. It's like, wow, that was amazing. Sent it to her. She had a very emotional response. And so I was like, that's the take. That should be on the album, is the phone voice memo. And so we passed this MP3 through like, a $500,000 analog desk that went through a tape machine and then spit back out, all the while just to wind up back as an MP3 playing off people's phones, off Spotify.
Right. That's cool though. I've heard other artists say that like they'll do a demo take or something, especially during the pandemic, record something in their closet or whatever, and then they'll go to the studio once everything opened up. Like, okay, let's redo the vocal, and then it never comes out the same because the passion and kind of just the vibe and the feeling of that first take doesn't resonate the second or third time when they try to redo it, and you end up using kind of that first even scratch vocal that was supposed to be the scratch vocal.
Well, I mean, something can only be born once, and it's usually its truest form when it's coming into itself, coming into the world for the very first time. So the whole idea of recreating that, it's almost like a foolish idea.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So Letting Go came from a text message that you received. Is that, I don't know, can you tell me about that song real quick? And then I'm curious if there's any other songs on the record that fell that way, because it sounds like these are all sparked from like ideas that are kind of happening at the moment, like, okay, Dream of You. And then is that kind of how the album played out with all the songs, or?
For some songs more than others, but yeah, that's kind of like the ethos of the project. I want to celebrate being present to when the message comes, when you kind of like wake up to how special it is to be alive, and you're attuned to, these messages that you're receiving, and you're able to do something with them, even if it's just holding them in a present way and communing with the beauty of the moment. Even that to me is a very creative act that we all too often neglect. Over the course of the day, there's probably 2,000 amazing things that happen that we just walk past. And as a creative person, each one of those things are the portal in to a song, are the way in to a poem, to a novel, to a this, to a that. And that's what I have firmly come to believe in life as a creative professional, I guess. Like, the more I can live an artful, awestruck life, the more prolific, the more productive I will be. And so, yeah, it is my hope that all of the, creative output for this project is born from those kind of flash moments of waking up to how special it all is. And so Letting Go, I was in Costa Rica. I was heartbroken. I was supposed to be writing songs like this individual guy by himself in a foreign place, single. I don't need my girlfriend. I don't need nothing. I just need a car. I'm an artist, blah, blah, blah. But all I was doing was sitting around kind of like coveting the union of couples on the beach, drinking their pina coladas. And so I sent a text to a friend that was very woebegone and sad and pathetic. And she just sent me a text saying something to the effect of, "You are chaos, and you are dreams, and you are love, and you are mountains, and you are chrome," all this weird shit. And then she finished it by saying, "And everything about you is okay." And that was the text. I was like, wow. So I just picked up a guitar and I basically just started singing her text. And then it turned into Letting Go. I sent it to her and she's like, "Oh my God, this is great." And then again, we kind of worked to finish the song. And yeah, it's very special for that reason, I think.
That's very cool. And was there any other collaborative moments like that on the album, or are those the kind of the bigger ones?
Yeah, well, another song called To Love You, which definitely reads as like a heartbreak song, but it's not. The lyric is, "To love you is to leave you." And so that song was born from me and two friends staying up all night and having like really deep conversations. And it came to light that one of these friends gave their child up for adoption when they were very young. And so this whole idea of doing something that's very hard for you, but for the better of the person or the child or the other, that idea came up, that concept came up, and that felt like a potent lyrical avenue. And so I proposed to the group that we write a song. And so we ended up staying up so late, like deep in this song together, and kind of pulling from her story. And this song was born, and we made a little voice memo, and didn't use that for the record. I re-recorded.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how that one came to be. I
Wow.
love
Yeah.
it happens. It feels better than when you're like, okay, I'm gonna go write a song now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like this kind of a spontaneous thing that happened, and then it becomes this like really, beautiful, kind of heavy subject matter topic.
Yeah, it just reminds you that life is, there can be art, life can be music. They don't have to be mutually exclusive things. They can really come together and form each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love, like I said earlier when you talked about the merch and the kind of how it's all packaged together. The postcards that you have, those are all photographs and photography that you've done?
Yeah.
And is that just another another hobby of yours? And then you just ended up taking photographs that you had that kind of worked with the songs, or was it you went out and they kind of went with each other?
Yeah, kind of the latter. I got deep into photography during the pandemic. Finally got like a real camera, and then I figured out a way to like attach a vintage lens to a digital camera, so you kind of get the convenience of shooting digitally, but then you get the rendering of filminess. And so I really liked that effect. And I guess, it's become a hobby, but it's become just more of a meditation, like almost like a savior. Photography is like, it's such a way to disconnect from the noise of life. You go on these photo walks and you're just trying to find something pretty. That's all where your mind is. It could just be like, I don't know, steam coming out of the side of a building, or a bird, or plastic bag stuck in a tree. And you just stand under it for like 20 minutes, just trying to capture it right. And you are not thinking about interpersonal drama or money or your body. You're just dialed into trying to capture beauty, and you come up back from one of those 1 hour walks and you're like, that was good for me. I can just feel in my body and my soul like that was healthy. And so yeah, it's become a lot more than a hobby for me. It's become like a lifeline, I think.
Mm-hmm. And you found and with the postcards, you found ones that kind of represented what you felt in the song, or kind of went with some of the songs.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I've taken like thousands of photos, and so I wanted one image per song on the record. Mm-hmm. Go through all the thousands of photos.
Yeah.
It was less about like, oh, that logically makes sense with those lyrics. It was more like, oh, that feels like the song.
Okay.
And so, okay, let's just put them together. And then you have to put them all together and make sure the color palette is balanced and nice. And
Mm-hmm.
so a bit of trial and error, but super fun.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about the mantra cards.
Well, my parents have been using a thing called angel cards for my entire life. They're just little cards, and you pick one out of the pile that says acceptance or gratitude or presence. So like these affirmation words, to give you a little guidance.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like these cards. I've written songs by like pulling 3 out and then using those words as sort of like
oh wow,
I have to use those words in a verse kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Inside, the title track from Mother's last record, was written.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I want to make merch that is more than just like, buy my hoodie.
Right.
I want it to be kind of emblematic of the project. And so that was kind of the idea behind that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's got like kind of like this boutique feel to it, like the just the whole packaging of the album, and then the cards and the postcards. I just think it's such a cool thing that you're doing. Do you have any plans?
I have to interrupt you. I just saw a text come from my publicist, and I think I'm late for my next interview.
Oh, so sorry. This is my last quick question. If you have any advice for aspiring artists?
My advice, I think, would be to make sure you want to do it because you have to do it. like breathing or eating, because it's pretty hard. But if you have to, then that makes the decision very easy. It's like, ask yourself, must you? And if the answer is yes, well, then you will. But if you don't want to, that's okay too. Bring me back